Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's workshop on mastering the art of networking for job search and career success. So, I'm the host, Arjun from Pivot, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody who is here understands we'll be recording this session today. But we will be taking up live questions towards the end. So, if nothing else, stay on just for that because you'll have the opportunity to ask any question that you have about networking or about your job search strategy from both the speakers, Shahjad and Udit, who will be joining us soon. So definitely stay on for that. But we'll kickstart with Shahjad. Udit is here as well, I believe. Hi, Udit. Hey, great to have you.
Hello everyone. I'm sorry I'm still in the car. So
No worries. It's good to just have you, and I'm sure like soon you'll reach your destination. Hopefully, we'll be able to do it nicely then. But we are just doing intros. I was just going to give my own intro. So, for people who don't know me, I'm the founder at Pivot, and what we do at Pivot is basically help others make smooth and successful career transitions. What that means is anytime a person is thinking about changing not just their job, like hopping from one company to another, but really, let's say, changing their domain, their industry, their level in the organization, maybe other inflection points like changing countries or starting something of your own. So any of these major career journey swords that people have is where we uh, help people transition. And there are a couple of things we do to help people achieve that. We'll talk about that during the course of this workshop. But without further ado, I want to welcome both the speakers who have joined us today. Shahjad, thanks again for making time for this. Really excited to have you. And Udit, you as well. I've been following both of you on LinkedIn for quite some time and see you both sharing some really insightful and valuable content around networking and many other topics that can be helpful to people. So in case, people you're not following Shehzad and Udit on LinkedIn, we'll be sharing the links to their profiles towards the end. Do follow them. But let's get started. So Shehzad, welcome again. And if you couldn't share a bit about yourself to help people understand about your career journey, that would be great. And then I would ask the same from Udit.
Yep. So basically, I did my engineering and finished it in 2019. Had a passion towards sales and business development, since the age of 13. And that's how, I got my knack towards sales and business development. And then finally started my job at an L1 level as a sales development representative. And then from there, account executive, enterprise account executive. And now I'm a regional vice president of one of the bootstrap profitable organization in India called Field Assist.
Great. Thanks so much, Shehzad. And Udit, I know you're in the car, but still go ahead. I think we are good to go.
hey everyone, my name is Udit Goenka. I'm a 5x founder. Have successfully exited from my first two companies. I'm currently running PitchGround, which is one of the top SaaS marketplaces, running FirstSales.io, which is my email SaaS outreaching tool. And I've recently launched something known as TinyCheck, which is India's very first AI SaaS venture studio. We've raised our pre-seed capital. We've just closed our round for TinyCheck. And inside TinyCheck, we are building a bunch of various new AI SaaS verticals. Where our first SaaS just came out, which is known as Neum inside TinyCheck, which has literally gone viral. We already have like thousands of lawyers using it across. So yeah, been into SaaS industry for the last good 16, 17 years now. And that's pretty much it about me. Apart from that, I've been angel investing. I've invested in about like 37 startups so far. And yeah, I'm always passionate about building something new. Cannot sit idle. Um, that's pretty much about me.
Great. All right. Thanks for sharing that, both of you. So I think let's dive in. So the elephant in the room is how do, people network and how should we, be able to drive ROI on networking. But before we do that, just to kind of set the stage, I feel like we probably talk to, hundreds of people a week at Pivot, about their job search, about their career transitions. And so in that context, we come across this concept of networking every day. And to be very honest, I don't know, Shahjad, Udit, what your experience has been. Mine has been pretty mixed when I speak with people about networking. Usually, the more experienced the people are, or if they feel they are an introverted personality, usually they find it more cringe. They find it more like, why do I have to do something like this where, I don't know somebody and I'm asking them for help, and it's just like, something really not very organic to them, not very natural to them, and they feel like there should be other better ways. And we have to sort of elaborate on why networking is becoming sort of part and parcel of a job search or a career transition, where you can't really do without it. It's like saying landing a job without actually applying for a job. You can't really do that, right? You have to go through networking. So a lot of our focus has become on in helping them understand how they can do it in a very natural way where they don't feel like they're selling themselves out or really, begging for help and things like those. So that was one of the genesis behind this workshop, right? And we wanted people to understand why networking is not necessarily cringe. So Shahjad, we'll start with you. If you can maybe just from your experience talk about, I mean, forget about job search or let's say career transition, what kind of impact has networking had in your life? What kind of things has it helped you with, particularly when it comes to your broad career trajectory?
So see, for me, networking is something like, it's about building a meaningful relationships with people, yeah, without any uh, motive behind it. And the harder you detach yourself while connecting with somebody, without a motive, the better those networking and those relation lasts. What I feel is that whenever you're networking for any particular, let's just say, event, for maybe it can be a job search, it can be a customer, or anything, speak less and hear more. Yeah, because that's something what I can see nowadays is that people are all about themselves. Yeah, so whenever you're networking with people, hear them out. People like to speak, hear them out. The more you will hear, people will be like, okay, yes, this is the person who was listening to me. And when you're listening to them, just don't listen for the sake of listening. Like, be in it, live in that moment. Like, you might be thinking like, this is a person whom I should reach out for a particular thing, or this is an event where I should go for a particular thing, and it turns out to be not that. Don't just deviate from the content, and just like just listen it, hear that person out, understand what that person has to say, and ask those genuine questions. Probably that's how you build up a relationships. And talking from my perspective, you know I know now more than 30 plus founders in Bangalore, founders who are doing their 0 to 1 journey, who are doing 1 to 10, and even founders who have done close to almost 100 million ARR. Yeah, that was purely because we were listening, I was listening them out, and maybe I was able to give some input, and those relationship has now turned out to be so nice that how, like, Manjari reached out to me on LinkedIn, like that. Founders reach out for maybe just for a catch up. Yeah, maybe not related to sales, which I do, or business development, just like I like you as a person, let's catch up. So, and that gives you a sense of a feeling where you're like, okay, fine, I know a lot of people. So there's a say that there are some people who know some people, and then there are some people who know many people, and there's the third category who knows everybody. Yeah, and that's very difficult. So to be that person who knows everybody, let's just say if today I have to connect with somebody, and if I do not know, I have that kind of a network which I know this person will know the third person, and that's how you get the reference. So just don't know some, like, few people, or don't try to know many people, try to know everybody as possible. Yeah. And as you were rightly saying, like, Udit is coming with like 16, 17 years of experience, I'm coming with just 6. So both the side of generations are there in this call. I completely resonate with Arjun. I see people with more gray hairs being little reluctant about networking with people. They think that, why should I approach first? Or probably, like, maybe the front person might take it in a wrong way. Everybody wants to speak, in these virtual world. People are so isolated from the real conversations. I feel whenever you are in a group of gathering, or whenever you are around people, just go out there and just speak to them. Just ask a basic question: how's your day going? And and
Yeah.
that's more than enough to kick off a conversation.
No, very true. I think a lot of good points shared there, Shahjad, especially like, the first thing that you started off with, that it doesn't always have to be something where you're seeking something. Right? You can just start networking by, like you said, just reaching out to a person and saying hello, introducing yourself, and listening to them without any particular motive behind it. Um, I think, with regard to, networking over the years, the definition has also changed because now virtually you can connect with everybody, no matter who they are, where they are based, right? We have people from India, outside India as well in this workshop, and that may not have been possible maybe 20 years ago or 15 years ago even. But with LinkedIn and so many other platforms, I think one of the things that people used to do earlier in networking outside their organization, they used to think of networking, oh, networking means going to this XYZ random event that's happening in town and exchanging my business card with 20 people without really actually having a meaningful conversation, coming back and hoping something would turn out from that. That all changed, right? Completely changed. Those events still happen, but the way people attend them or people going on virtual platforms like the ones you were talking about, I think it's very different today. So, Udit, um, just kind of looping you into the conversation, how have you seen networking kind of evolve for yourself, right? Not theoretically, but like you've had a 15-year plus career. Have you always been one of those, who has had a good network and leveraged it for different purposes? Has it evolved for you, or have you seen it evolve for people around you?
It has actually evolved for me because when I started my career, I started as a developer. So I used to be an ultra shy guy. Give me a computer and a corner of a table, and I'll be the happiest person, right? With a good internet. That's all I required. I didn't require anything else, right? But I think over a period of time, I've realized that it's not about building, but it's about knowing. It's about knowing people, right? Because people who know people can move things faster at the end of the day. And that's where people who can really make these changes and moves, they are the ones who eventually end up growing a lot faster and not the ones who are actually building it. So when I started focusing on networking during my initial times, I remember I started my career primarily when I was in US. I used to be like the youngest kid in the entire table. Most of the people would be like 36, 40, 45, and I was like a 22, 23-year old kid, right, sitting in the table, and I would just listen to all of them, right, and trying to understand. Um, when you are starting your career, it's very important, right? I'm going to give you a small trick over here to really network better with people, which is to look dumb, right? Because when you look dumb and when you make the other person look, oh my God, you are amazing, right? You already win them over. Even though if you know everything, don't go out and say everything, right? Try to be the most dumbest person on the table wherever you are, whenever you're networking, and then let your work speak. That's very important, right? Because when people go and try to connect with you, and they know that your intention is not to sell, because if you're dumb, obviously you're not going to try to sell something to me. That's very, very important. That's very psychological, right? And that psychological hack in terms of networking is something that I learned when I was in US from some of the best people out there. So that's how I connected. And over a period of time, what I've also realized is my network and everyone I have been networking with personally, they are at least 10 to 15 years older than me, because I need to learn, right? Networking is, again, it's not about asking, it's about giving, right? And when you give, you have to make sure that someone will only spend enough time with you if you can provide value to them. That's very, very, very critical, because if you do not provide any sort of value to anyone, trust me, no one will want to network with you, right? I know a couple of like Gen Zs, they're literally 20-year-old, have got a following of almost 3 lakh, 4 lakh, 5 lakh followers, right? Very good quality followers. People who are aged at 40, 50, and amazing entrepreneurs want to network with them. Why? Because they know that one picture, if this guy posts one picture, close to around 500,000 world will see, right? 500,000 people will see me and understand and provide that value. Is that whenever I start networking, I that specific value to people. That's something that I bring in. And second, I always ensure that I try to higher of my age, especially because I some possible opportunities in the future. So a lot of people ask me, like, "Udit, why did you start with angel investment?" And I tell them one thing: it is for GTM, and it amazes them. Right? I've never angel invested because I need to make returns out of it. Look, I'm an entrepreneur myself. I don't have a patience of 7 years to get a return from some other business, right? But my investments that I've made has gotten me in work. So it's not about knowing everyone. It's about knowing the right person. Right? Today I'm one call away probably to give a call to some of the top entrepreneurs of India. Right? Because I share the same cap table as them. Right? So I have a mediator founder. I just need to call him and tell him, can you please make an intro for me? And he will, right? Because I'm sitting on the cap table. So I started doing this because I learned this from some other founder who told me, Udit, start doing this. So if you have a marketing budget of, let's say, 10 lakh rupees, just to give you an example, right, in terms of percentages, start putting in about 20 lakh or sorry, 20% or 30% of it in angel investment. It's not going to give you returns right away, but it's going to give you that right network. And down the road, these networks is what will help you to kind of like start scaling up, right?
Yeah.
So
And
those are
not
the strategies that I've used
Yeah, not just networking, like
in
you
the long
said,
run.
it's also like you're starting off on the right foot by adding value to another person's career or another person's life rather than asking them to add value in yours. And I mean,
Absolutely.
that's a very interesting and kind of innovative way of networking. I don't think I've heard that before. Most people start by reaching out saying, "Hey, can you refer me to this job? Can you help me connect to somebody else who is in your network, or can you, kind of do something, do some favor for me?" So I think starting by adding value to another person's life and career, and that turns over that whole formula on its head, and makes things much easier because everybody would be much more receptive to you then, rather than ghosting you or not really wanting to talk to you. Oh, very interesting. Now, I just want to share a quick point here, Udit and Shahjad. So, I worked in US myself, Udit, when you were talking about, learning about networking in US, and I was kind of recapping some of the conversations I had. And to be very honest, I sucked at networking for a very long time, right? Like, didn't really think about its merits or why should I do it, because I was doing generally well in my career at the same firm, right? And when you're in one firm, you're so siloed, right? In your echo chamber, you're like, okay, I know everything, I know the people I need to know, and I'm good. It's until that, sort of that external need or a requirement to change something about your career comes to you, when you get hit with like, okay, I don't know anybody. Now what do I do? So what happened with me was in 2018, I wanted to transition back to India for personal reasons. And I had never worked in India. I had only worked in US, right? My whole career was in US. So I didn't know anybody in India at that time. And what I realized was, okay, I may not know people in India, but I do know people in US who know people in India. So I started reaching out to folks who I knew in US. And, initially I applied to maybe like, I don't know, like maybe 25, 30 jobs. Didn't hear back from anywhere because you know how LinkedIn and Naukri as a portal is, it's all a black hole. You hardly hear back. But I applied to 25, 30 jobs, didn't hear back. And after that, I reached out to four people. I said, I'll just, touch base with four people. I don't need to do like 40 people or even 20 people. Four people in my US network, ask them who they can potentially connect me to within India. And I'll be very honest, I asked for help. I did not mince my words. I didn't say, hey, how can I help you or how can I add value to you? I just asked for help. Three of them gave me just advice. Don't go back to India. Don't do this. You're going to ruin your career. Stay here in US. All of those things. One person, she connected me to four or five people who worked in India. And within a month, I had three offers, right? I had three offers within 1 month. So that changed the trajectory for me, and that changed how I looked at networking. And that person, I mean, I'm so grateful who helped me without asking for anything in return. But it's not something which is only unique to me. A lot of people go through this kind of a journey. I've seen many, many others, reaping the benefits of networking. So, Shahjad, what I want to ask you next is something related to this, right? People reach out to others, whether they know them or don't know them. They might be strangers, acquaintances, or a good connection. They reach out through various methods. I'm sure you are very well versed in a lot of them. Could be a phone call if you know them, could be an email or LinkedIn message if you don't. How do you reach out to somebody where it may not be necessarily that you need something today, but you might need something in the future. But more importantly, how do you get a positive response from that person? How do you make sure that they take time out of their busy lives and give their time to you? So, what are some of the ways that you have accomplished that through outreach yourself?
Well, just to put it, that's what I do for my living. Like, I'm in sales, and that's exactly what I do for my living. Yeah. So before I answer that, I'll answer the first part. You were saying that someone who might whom you do not have anything at this moment. What I generally see when people are networking is that they just want to reach the top level, like the senior position, the VPs, the CXOs, and the founders. Try to understand a kid studying today, a fresh graduate of 2024 batch, might become the next founder of $100 million company. A kid today who's of, like, let's just say 24-year-old might run a company who's doing 1 billion business. What I generally see people doing is that they don't maintain that reach out of making sure that they reach out to the fresh new people who have just started their career. Why? Because that brings a complete different perspective, like what is happening in the market. So it is very important that you. And the second problem which I see is that if I'm from sales, I'll connect with salespeople. If I'm a software developer, I'll just connect with software developer. If I'm from finance, I'll just connect with finance. No, the world doesn't work like that. I am in this position right now because someone from a product team referred me. My friends are in software developer because some salesperson said that I know a software developer who was building amazing product when I was doing sales in my previous organization. So I think people should not people have a misconception that people from same department, same industry will help you out. No, it's not like that. Yeah. So reach out to people from different industries, and reach out to people of different age categories. You never know what is there in future. Yeah. Now coming back to your second part thing, second question, which you were saying that how do you get that response? As I said, that's what I do for a living. The best way of getting a response from anybody is to make your entire messaging, your entire networking, or that narrative about them. So let's just say if I have to reach out to Arjun, probably, like, let's just say tomorrow, let's play a hypothetical scenario here. Let's just say I am trying to sell something to Arjun. What I would simply say is that his narrative, that he sucked at networking, as he said, in his childhood, and today he is an entrepreneur who's making this entire forum learn about networking. Now I'll put these lines in a beautiful way in the opening lines of a LinkedIn message or an email or a cold call, and then I'll be not just in the head of Arjun, I'll be also in the heart of Arjun. Yeah. What people try to think is that there's a say in sales that people buy emotionally and then reason it out with logics. So whenever you're networking also with somebody, hit them emotionally, understand them, what is their emotion right now, make it about them. Don't make it about your product, about you, about how great you are, what degrees you have, how much you have accomplished. Make it about them, about what they have achieved, what are the things they might be interested in. And trust me, the conversation then takes off just like that from that particular place. So whenever
Yeah.
if you're trying to, yes, Arjun.
Go ahead, finish your thoughts, Shahjad.
Yeah. So what I was saying, that if you're particularly reaching out to somebody, please do your homework. Yeah. And if it's a wider audience, then you need certain kind of personalities. Let's just say if there's a whole group of 50 people in the room, number one is that there's a say that don't open a shop if you do not know how to smile. So that's the first principle of networking. In India specifically, what I see is that when two strangers look at each other, they immediately move their face. That doesn't happen in Western worlds. If they look at somebody even at a coffee shop, they will just give a smile. Get these habits. These are very much required when you're networking. Yeah, which is actually what I can see is majorly missing in Indian crowds.
Yeah. Very well said. I love the part around, you don't always kind of speak to their brain or their logic, but also to their heart and their emotions. I think that makes so much sense because I think, people are so used to treating work as a purely logical or emotionless, machine-oriented kind of space that they forget ultimately, end of the day, you're dealing with humans. And no matter, who you are going to speak with, if you don't incite some sort of a deeper level connect with them, right? It's going to be hard to get their help. Definitely makes sense. Um, Udit, I'm going to ask you a question, but just before that, very small, very, very small, short anecdote. So I actually got recently a cold email or cold LinkedIn message actually from somebody who's another founder within the job tech and career tech ecosystem, similar to me. And, I get these messages from time to time saying, hey, how's your journey going? Or, let's have a brainstorm session together. I would love to understand, how we can collaborate, blah, blah, blah. And, those are all very generic messages usually. This message stood out to me because this person reached out. Firstly, he had a larger following on LinkedIn than me, much larger, almost 2x of mine, which I don't see many people doing. Usually people who have smaller following do it. But this person had like 30 plus thousand reaching out to somebody with 15,000. And more than that, the message was very, very impactful. He reached out saying, I've been following you and Pivot for a long time, and I love what you guys are doing. Here are three ways that I can help you potentially. And out of those three ways, he outlined two ways where he could add value to Pivot, and one way where he could add value to my personal life. He had done some homework about my personal life, knowing that I had spent time in US and India, and guessed that I would probably be doing a lot of international travel. So he had cracked some formula of saving a lot of money when you travel internationally. And he said, I can just share some hacks with you, which I have. Anyways, these are just very small things that he did, which made it almost irresistible for me to not respond to this because he had not asked for anything. Rather, he had just said, this is how I can help you. Right now, not everybody is in a position to do that. I understand that. But Udit, you really focused about adding value, right? You focused about angel investing as a means to expanding your network. So how can people who may not always be in a position to, let's say, add value from their perspective, right? Let's say I'm a job seeker who's got 5, 10 years experience, right? And I'm reaching out to somebody who has 15 years experience. As you said, reach out to people who might have more experience than you because then you can learn from them. But at the same time, we say you got to add value before you ask for value in networking. So how do people do that, right? Especially in the context of, let's say, a job search or a career transition. Is there a way that you think can work better rather than just asking them for help right away?
I think it's a great question. So I think what's really important is to understand that everyone has got a certain skill set or they're good at something really good, right? So for example, even though I might have 15, 16, 17 years of experience, but I'm not good at a lot of things, right? You might have worked in the for just 5 years, but you might have really excelled in what you want to do. So I think it's very important to understand that whenever you're connecting with someone, it's sometimes it's not about adding value, but it's also about having a very clear agenda. So for example, the cold DM that you got, right? The three things that you mentioned, it was crystal clear in terms of what value the other person can have had, right? Not just that, it was so crystal clear that it made you respond to it. The problem is that most of the time people will reach out, they will just write something like, hey, hi, how are you doing? It's been a long time since we connected on LinkedIn. Can we connect? So that's just plain where a lot of people with a lot of following, they get hundreds and thousands of such messages, right? So you really have to do some research. And today doing research has become so much easier, right? You can use so many sales AI agents that are available where I can press some button and I can get all the information about you with a click of a button, right? So, but for that as well, you have to put a little bit of extra effort. So now if I were to do something like this where I want to reach out to someone who has got like more experience than me, then what I would generally do is I would do that first initial set of research and I will try to understand some of the biggest pain point that particular founder or that particular person is facing. And then I'll mention, look, this is where I can add some value in your life, right? So how about we get on a quick call, or maybe if you are in the same town, let's catch up for a coffee, right? If that is also not possible, then what you generally do is that try to do a small set of group of people meeting. That brings a lot of comfort, right? So I'll reach out to a couple of very good people who I already know them. And when I reach out to the third person, I'll tell them, look, these two people are already coming in. Yeah, you are in the same town. Why don't we all catch up? I think it's going to add some great value. And plus, you can take a small break from your busy schedule at the same time. And just we can have some nice, good conversation. So again, I'm not trying to sell anyone. The problem is that people network to sell. That's the biggest problem. When you network, you cannot have an agenda to sell. Trust me, when you do that, the sales part of it will naturally flow in either tomorrow, day after tomorrow, because you know them. And when you know them, and when you have left some value to people's life, it can be in any form, right? It can be just a good conversation is also a value, because as you were mentioning that, then there needs to be someone who can also listen to you, right? So at that particular stage, when you do that, when you drive that sort of in value, people will respond to it. So that's where you need to really start standing out in terms of what you're really good at is something you need to sort of bring it on table and let the other person know. If you have like zero experience but you have good skill set, right? If you don't have skill set, then go and build skill set before even reaching out and doing any kind of networking, right? But if you don't have that, go and you have those specific skill set, reach out. So something very interesting happened just yesterday. So I just recently released my newer version of for sales, and one founder who had been in the AI industry for some time, he reached out to me and he told me that, Udit, I think here are a couple of features that you need to build that will help you to start selling to more people right away. And I told him, yeah, that's already a part of my roadmap. I'm going to be building it, right? And he didn't give up. He was like, let's get on a call and I'll tell you exactly what to build up because I've done that research for you. Right now,
Oh,
his following list was literally 800. That's it.
wow. Yeah.
Right. But I was forced to respond because he's adding value to me because he's done the research. And now I'm getting on a call with him very soon. So this is how you go and do some research and add value. And but then again, if you get on a call and if you don't give that value at that stage, then you just end up like losing that relationship at that stage, right? So make sure that you are ready to be reaching out to someone because you typically get one or two opportunities with anyone that you connect with, right? So you need to know when to reach out to whom and when. I think that's the key of networking.
That's brilliant. No, I think that's brilliant. And I think a lot of good examples you've shared with regard to, when to build, how to build, who to reach out to. A lot of good insights there. One other point that's kind of coming across is if you if you're starting to network at the time you need something, you're already kind of playing a losing game, right? Because then you are just in the position of selling yourself and trying to get something out of it. And it doesn't always work like that. It might have been something that worked for, a subset of people, but it doesn't work for everybody like that. So maybe networking is something which should be more organic and ongoing part of your career, that you're doing from the start. And it doesn't have to be every day, but as consistently as possible so that you have created enough value or you have built enough of an ecosystem around you to be able to leverage it when you need it, if you need it, right? And that's not the sole purpose of networking anyways. It's also about, giving as much as it is about taking. So I think a lot of those points are very valid. Now, one of the things I will be honest, there is this sort of celebrity or influencer, also a very successful entrepreneur. I'm sure many people know about him is Naval Ravikant. I'm 100% sure, at least 80-90% of people know about him. He is the founder of Angel List, also a very, very prolific angel investor in US. I came across this video where he said, exactly Udit, kind of the point that you touched upon, but he said it in a more, I would say, blunt manner. He said, everybody keeps talking about networking all the time, and I don't buy it. I just don't think you need to network until you actually have something to offer, right? Until you actually have a skill set, like you said, Udit, right? And he said, if you have something to offer, if you have a great skill set in some area, then people will come to you automatically. You won't have to reach out to them every time, right? And I think that's a very, very interesting point that it's not that he's against networking. I mean, he's doing hundreds of podcasts, he's meeting new people, and learning from them, giving and taking with them. So he's networking. He can't be somebody who despises networking, but he's just saying that you don't have to do it in such a cold, mechanical way. You can do it where you invest in yourself, be ready to offer people something which they would leverage for their own benefit. And then when people reach out to you, you automatically start networking. It's very organic. So, Shahjad, the question here is, LinkedIn today is one of the most popular tools for networking. We connected on LinkedIn. I think Udit also and I connected on LinkedIn. So the question is, so many people don't really understand how to leverage a platform like LinkedIn today for networking. The most they do is sending people random connection requests and some of those messages that have been talked about saying, hey, how are you doing? Been a long time, let's catch up. Or, sometimes I get a lot of messages saying, hey, can you help me, land this job, or can you help refer me to this company, etc., etc. Now, while I, as a person, would like to help as many people as I can, but most people just don't have that time, right? So, how do people network for career success and not just lead generation? Because I know that's probably something that you have to do in your day to day, but overall career success when they are, let's say, trying to advance their career, trying to move companies or shift industries. Um, how do they leverage LinkedIn more holistically rather than just sending these random messages in the dark and hoping to hear back?
And it's a good question, and I think this should be addressed specifically for people who are right now beyond their 35s and 40s. In today's world, even before you reach a boardroom or even before you reach an interviewer, your LinkedIn profile is with them. Yeah, let's just say Arjun and I have never met, Udit and I have never met in person, but I can tell you something about Arjun. I can tell something about Udit. Why? Because something is there out there in the LinkedIn. Yeah. So building a personal brand becomes very, very important because even before, because I have taken somewhere around more than 100 plus interviews this year. Yeah. And I was like, okay, fine, resume and all this is fine, let me go and see what they are doing on LinkedIn. That's my natural instinct, and that's how HRs and companies are hiring nowadays. So building a personal brand becomes very, very easy. Now in this, the challenge is some people say that we do not have that expertise, or we do not have that experience on what to write on LinkedIn, what to share on LinkedIn. That's the biggest problem and the bottleneck which is stopping people. I tell them, if you know any skill, just go write about it. If you do not know, what did you learn today in your office, just go write about it. Once you start writing about it, automatically, you build an expertise around that. Yeah, either write about your skills, or either just write about what did you learn last week from your manager. Just write that part at least. Yeah, if you do not have expertise, start writing. And automatically, once people start feeling that you have that content, you have that things out there in your LinkedIn, people start connecting automatically. As you were talking about the gentleman, Naval, I guess. Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. Yes,
So,
yes.
he say what he said, like, he doesn't believe in networking, but build a skill set and people come to you. So, build that personal brand, right? Build that personal brand. Maybe something I would have done. That's the reason I think Arjun and his team would have reached out. You're getting my point. And I'm just saying that I'm just an average guy. There might be people with, premium degrees and, 10x better than me. Maybe they are not present there, and that's the reason people are not tapping them. And how will people tap them in this digital world when you are not digitally present? Now, coming back to my first part, what I see is that people who have more than 20 years of experience, when they are sharing their resume across LinkedIn and various different platforms, I see that they do not have maybe a face to that LinkedIn name. They do not have a banner. They do not have a title. They have not put enough things on their LinkedIn. Even if you are a genuine intelligent person, looking at your LinkedIn, you will come off as a stranger, come off as a spammy person, because your LinkedIn profile is not completed. Yeah, these are bare minimum things, which is required in today's world. Because try to understand, this is for all the forum out there. You might be a 40-year-old person, you might be a 50-year-old person. The person who might be hiring might be just a fresh college graduate. Yeah, who might be referring your resumes to their boss, to their founders. And these Gen Zs, because I am also a Gen Z, might have a way of working that, forget about resume, let me just go to LinkedIn and see whether how authentic this person is. That's how important it is today to build your personal brand. Yeah. I recently went to a client meeting, and I'm supposed to do all the research about the client. And client would have obviously visited my LinkedIn profile. That client literally read out a post which I had posted, something related to empathy. He was like, Shahzad, I really loved the post which you had posted about empathy. I said, are we connected? He said, no. Like, I visited your LinkedIn profile. I was just scrolling through who's Shahzad, who's coming to, meet us for this meeting. And then I found this particular post. And that started the conversation just like that. And, we were already connected before I, even went inside that boardroom to, to have that sales or that business conversation. So it's very, very important to, have that social presence, build your personal brand, and, start writing. Please, I request to all the forum and whomever I connect with, please start writing on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant point, Shahjad, that you don't always have to think of networking as outbound. Even though as a sales rep, most of the people who are working in sales would probably think about, okay, let me research on my, audience and kind of write these very personalized emails and LinkedIn DMs. And I mean that you can continue to do, but there's nothing that takes away from you building your brand or building your skill set in a way where others can see it, right, on virtual platforms. And you get inbound queries, you get inbound interest and attention and collaboration opportunities that focus on, has to shift from just purely outbound to outbound and inbound networking as much as possible. Something I realized once I, became an entrepreneur, because I transitioned into a new field. I used to be in management consulting, and then I transitioned into a new field. Realized very quickly that to learn from people who are in my target field, my new field, quickly, I'll have to build a brand because I can't be reaching out to 20 people every day. So I think very, very
Yes.
valid points. You
So
had something
I'll
to add.
just add. I'll just add to it. I was speaking to a gentleman who has exited from a company which is clocking 1.2 billion dollars. Yeah. So I was just speaking to him. What he said, very like it just struck me so hard. He said, "Build an audience, then go and sell. Don't sell and build audience. You will struggle a lot. Build an audience first, and then sell it to that audience."
Yeah, well, I think valid point, and there's so many entrepreneurs who are building in public. I mean, I won't call myself exactly that because I don't really talk about pivot in public that much. But yes, I mean, I have a somewhat of a brand. I believe Udit does, and I'm aware of so many other entrepreneurs. So, Udit, the question to you in terms of networking and LinkedIn specifically is you've been doing this for quite some time in terms of angel investing, connecting with new people, broadening your network, adding value, all of that. Are there any hidden kind of strategies or, so like for example, personal branding, outreach to people on LinkedIn? These are something that, more and more people are talking about. It's becoming, I wouldn't say hackneyed, but it's becoming kind of the ruling mantra of today's networking strategy, right? That you have to reach out to people in a personalized way and you have to build your brand. Are there any like non-obvious strategies which you have seen work, outside of this? And it could be any platform, right? Doesn't have to be necessarily LinkedIn. Could be anything. Like, where have you seen more success where you didn't really expect or you haven't seen many others do it around you?
I think the major thing that I've seen people not doing enough is actually talking about their journey, right? Today with AI, you can create contents, right? You can educate someone about on a certain topic, but the problem is that those information are much more easily accessible then. So today, someone who is a 10-year-old or someone who's a 50-year-old both have access to the exact same knowledge, but the reason why someone who is probably, let's say, 20, 25-year-old might not succeed as much as someone who's 50 is the experience, right? It's the journey. And if you start talking about your journey in a much more authentic manner, that's when you have a much higher chances of connecting with people. And I always say this at many forums and many platforms that be open and be vulnerable. That's very important because humans actually connect on vulnerability. They don't connect on happiness, they connect on sadness, believe it or not. When you see a sad story, you connect to that person much more than you see a success story because you will forget the success story tomorrow, right? But when you connect to a sad story, that will hit you very hard because at some point, either you have gone through it or you are going through it. That's the journey of almost 99.9% people in the entire world, right? I'm not talking about someone who is Ambani and Birlas, right? I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the rest of the 99.99% of the people. So talk about vulnerabilities. If you have failed, talk about it, right? Just like you talk about your success, you have cracked a deal, great. Tell me, why have you failed on this deal? Give me that insight. What did you do wrong over there? And that's what most of the people, they don't do. They will only talk about, oh my god, I'm doing this much MRR, oh my god, I'm doing this much revenue. But now this month, if you have a bad month, why don't you talk about that, right? The
Yeah.
problem is that you start feeling that people will judge you, that will affect your brand, this and that. But that's the problem. You cannot be successful every single day of your life, right? You get successes only few days in the whole year. So why don't you talk about the entire journey, right? So while you talk about your successes, talk about your failures.
Yeah, Udit, I think your voice is breaking, but I think the point that you made really
Doing that, and I
resonated.
think that's when it will start help you.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, your voice was breaking with it, but I think we got most of what you said, and very, very, very important point, especially when you are, sharing about your journey with others to, what to talk about. A lot of people ask that question, and Shahjad, you also answered that in your own way, and I think Udit has also brilliantly put forward this point around, making sure that it's not just your positive side, but your vulnerable side as well, and that's where people resonate most. Even I have seen that. And it takes to be very honest, it's not a switch on, switch off, right? You have engineered yourself to kind of focus only on presenting the best side of yourself in your career for so long, right? Like what you are taught in school and college is like, prepare a lot when you're sitting in interviews, make sure you're putting in your best work every day. So you develop that mentality of, somebody who needs to hide their failures, who needs to hide their vulnerable spots, their blind spots, because you are engineered like that. It's nothing wrong per se with you, but we are told, we are conditioned to present the best side. But when we are trying to connect with others and really, deeply resonate with them and have them resonate with us, I think then, Udit, your point makes a lot of sense. Just we have I'll take a pause here because we have only about 10 minutes left for this conversation. So I really want to emphasize that whoever is here, please do share your questions in the chat. If you would like to come up on the stage and just unmute yourself and speak, feel free to do that. You will have about about, I would say, 30 to 40 seconds to share whatever you would like. Otherwise, feel free to share in chat as well. I'll take up those questions. This is the best time to ask anything related to networking. And I've asked one question to everybody. What is the number one challenge that you face in networking, right? It can be anything. It could be, I don't know who to reach out to. I don't know how to start. I don't know what even to look for, when I'm trying to network. Could be anything. No question is a bad question. Please share it. We already have a couple of questions, though, so I'll start with those, Shahjad and Udit, if it's okay with you. So one of the questions we have is from the audience. I believe Animesh shared this, and it's a good question. Maybe we have answered it indirectly, but would love to get your direct take on it. So Animesh is asking, what kind of conversation can we have uh, when we are networking with anyone, right? So what are some of the topics that might incite good response from people who we are reaching out to? It's a pretty broad question, but I think still a very, very relevant question, because when you don't know somebody or you're an acquaintance with them, it's hard to think about like, okay, there's 100 things I can talk about. What is the thing that I should talk about, which will help this conversation, be like a productive one? Shahjad or Udit, either one of you, whoever wants to take a stab, please feel free, unmute yourself and go ahead.
So I'll take this one. I actually have a very interesting story to tell over here. So this was a story when I was in US, right? I used to be a very, very shy guy. So I learned a lot of things from a very good person. So we actually became their clients, and then that salesperson became a very good friend, right? We're still connected. It's been almost 17 years. And I've always learned so much from him. And he taught me a lot of things, very interesting things, right? So he took us to meet with their bosses to close a deal, right? It was almost $100,000 a year deal that we were looking to close, and we were the customers, by the way, right? And there was this one very awkward moment where everyone went quiet, and that guy, he started talking about how he got his girlfriend over there at that same place, right? And he started making some bullshit story at that stage, right? Everyone had a laugh, everyone had a crack, and then people resumed talk. Now, the point that I'm trying to make is that sometimes you need to stop talking about work all the time. Start talking more about your life, start talking about the common things, trying to find the most common things out there that you both could do, and that's where you will connect the best, right? Even on the sales call, when I get on the sales call, I always start with, I never start with, hey, let's start with a demo, or what do you want. I never start my conversations with that. I always start my conversations with how has been your day so far, right? Because now there's someone who would listen. As Shahjad was saying, it's very important to develop the skill of listening, because once they start speaking, you have to start analyzing all of those information as AI and start understanding, okay, here are the points, they have given us the points. Now it's up to you how you want to take the conversations from there. So you have to be a very good listener to be a very good speaker, especially if you want to network better. Make it about them and not about you. And that's when you will start succeeding in sales, right? So that's the answer to the question, right? If you don't know, start with the most basic questions to begin with. And when they start giving you the information, you make the conversations from those conversations that started initially.
It's very interesting, Udit, that you shared about the fact that you don't need to just talk about your professional life, but start something basic and could be personal as well. Because I have a question from somebody, one of the audience members here, who's reached out directly to me. So not everybody can see it, but literally the question is, if I'm starting to drive more of inbound interest to me, can I post things outside of my professional interest, something that is more of personal interest? So I think you kind of already nailed it, right? You just said like it is very much not okay, but it's kind of important to talk about things which may not always be work oriented, right? So I think very valid point. Shahjad, do you want to add anything to this?
So yeah, couple of things. You can be like, you can start conversations just by appreciating someone. Yeah, it works. There was a gentleman who was sitting right next to me, and he had some kind of ear studs which was in the shape of snake. I didn't know that person. I just said, you have got some cool earrings. And that person just like, oh, is it? Fine, fine. And that person started asking me question, where are you from? Where are you traveling? What do you do? And it just kicked off. So what people generally feel is that I have to ask them some good questions. No, you can start off with, I like your suit. You can just be as normal, as basic question as that. You can just appreciate somebody, and then the conversation slowly starts picking it up. And as somebody asked you in the chat, even if you go to my LinkedIn, out of, let's just say, 4 posts which I'll do, let's just say in a week, or 3 posts, only one is about sales, the two is about, as Udit was saying, where I failed, or let's just say, about life, about somebody else's problem or challenges, because people resonates.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to build your inbound crowd, just write about something which people can resonate with, and please write raw content. Trust me, like, I would have, like, all my best friends are, into this AI and techies. I can make out which are these chat GPT content. Just by reading 3 lines, I can tell you on LinkedIn this material is from chat GPT. Just by looking at the full stop, I can say that, this has come from chat GPT. And but once people understanding these patterns, they don't resonate with your content. Yeah, start writing raw. There's no issue if you're making grammatical mistakes. The idea is that the story should connect. Yeah, people made 1,000 crore budget movie called Bahubali. If people joining outside India, after spending 1,000 crores, the first part ended up with a beautiful question: who killed Bahubali? Why did Katappa kill Bahubali? That kind of curiosity people are leaving behind. That should be type of a market which you should build, where people should resonate with you with certain kind of features, and certain features in the sense, about you, not about your product. And that's
Yep.
how people will remember you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think valid points. And there's so many different things. I'm glad you both shared ideas which were not very traditional or, kind of hackneyed, Because a lot of people will be like, well, go to their profile, research what they have done, and try to talk about something which you feel you have an overlap in terms of professional interest. I think both of you kind of change the orbit of the conversation by saying like, hey, you don't always have to even talk about professional stuff. You can talk about so many different topics which will pique people's interest. And it may not pique everybody's interest, but even if you're reaching out to five people and out of them two or three respond to that, that's good enough, right? That's a good enough start. You don't need 100% of people to respond. Makes sense. All right, let's take up another question here. Now we are getting suddenly hit by a lot of questions right before we have 5 minutes left. So there's one question which is a very common question and a very, very important one from Niladri. And it's about how it's hard to network and approach people on LinkedIn, as most of them do not even respond, no matter how well you have communicated your intent behind the networking, right? Um, Probably one of the most frequently asked questions about networking, right? And that's where the cynicism and criticism of networking comes in, that you spend so much time crafting these messages, and we reach out to like 5-10 people a day, but only one person responds or nobody responds. So this is kind of what a lot of people are going through. And I know you have shared a lot throughout the conversation today, Udit and Shahjad, which indirectly answers this question, how to get better responses, how to pique people's interest. But what would you say to somebody who is experiencing this, especially if they're trying to achieve, let's say, specific career goal and they're starting to network? They can't change the fact that they haven't networked for the last 5 years, right? They are where they are in their journey today. So, what would you say to them in terms of maximizing the impact of networking when they're reaching out to people? Udit, you can start. I see you unmuted yourself.
So I think one of the best ways to really start networking is stop going to conferences. Use platforms like Meetup, where there's probably a bunch of just 5-10 people meeting up, or just go and post you're organizing a meetup. There is thousands of people who will see, and I'm pretty sure at least 5 people will show up, right? And it will only be those people who are interested in those topics. So it's not necessarily that everything you have to outbound all the time. Sometimes use these inbound platforms that are also available, which are designed for specific purposes. So uh, one has to start looking from outside of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and start using these platforms like I said, meetup.com, right? Just post over there. Or if you see someone else who has posted, your end goal is to go and meet new people at the end of the day in your industry. So you'll find much more relevant people, and there are much more different platforms that are out there and available today. So you start using these platforms, and that's how you start building a bit of community. Another two options that I'll give, or two suggestions that I'll give, if you want to sort of like start really start standing out, one, start building a community. That's very important, right? Start with 1 people, 2 people, 10 people, 20 people, and tell them what this community is about, and make it hyper niche, right? Don't make it digital marketing agency. No, make it a very hyper niche community of, let's say, on page SEO to begin with. If you want to go into SEO, then on page SEO, right? Now reach out to on page experts and say, hey, I'm building a community on just on page SEO experts. Would you like to join that community? Chances of you getting a response is much higher because it's about them now. Second option that I'll give you, if you can do it, this requires a bit of work, is start organizing a podcast. Invite people and reach out to people and invite them for podcast. There's a big chance they will say yes, because they want, it's, you're making it about them, right? A podcast is completely about the other person. So when you make it about them, that's when you connect. You get 30 minutes or 1 hour of their like uninterrupted time at that stage. Right. So for
Right.
example, Arjun and I have never spoken. This is the first time we are actually speaking over here together. Right. So this is what you do. This is how you network. This is how, like, you use these unique strategies out there to go and network. If you're just starting out, trust me, it doesn't matter how many followers, who you know, who doesn't know. You start with the most basic things in life, and things will work. And remember, each one of us has started from zero. So you also have to start from zero if you want to reach 200 one day.
Very valid point. Shahjad, just in the interest of time, want to get your take on the same thing. And, I want to contextualize it basis the new question we just got from Ajay. Kind of similar question, but framed in a different manner. So Ajay is going through a job search or a transition. He has a 2-3 month timeline target for that transition. And he's looking to potentially get referrals from people at his target companies. So he wants to start networking now so that within 2-3 months, he's able to get at least a few referrals, right? Now, Udit shared some great strategies, and some of them I have personally applied and seen the benefit of it, right? Like whether you talk about starting a community or a podcast and all those things, but not everybody may be looking to do that or well suited to do that, right? So Ajay's question is, how can I do this within a finite period of time? And so when we are reaching out to others, let's say outbound, right? How do we maximize our chances of hearing back in a positive way, if not right away, but let's say over a period of time? I think as a sales professional, that is probably one of the biggest strengths that you would have. So I would love to hear your take on that.
Fine, I'll keep it to specifically to LinkedIn because that's where the entire the question answers what I can see about is that number one is that don't do spray and pray. Like let's just say if you want to let's just say get selected in next 2-3 months, first make that particular list of like let's say 20-25 companies where you want to get into. Find out who are those hiring managers. Find out who are those talent acquisition specialists are. Then what you do, don't just simply just send them, hi, this is my resume as you're hiring, or let's just say don't just start sending them requests. First start engaging with their content. There's a very good book of called Influence, where there's a framework called give, and then ask. And when you're asking, ask big. So go to their LinkedIn profile, leave a comment. Yes, like some thoughtful comment. Like their content, engage with them, like at least for a week. Automatically, your name will be registered in their recall memory. That I remember someone called Shahjad who had left a nice comment in my post. I remember someone called Shahjad, who liked or gave me a insight emoji into my post. Do that for a week and then send them a request and then send them a personalized message. You increase your chances of getting responses from such hiring managers and from such TAs. Yeah, why? Because you have already given them some value in form of either a like or in form of a comment. Yeah, so give, and then you ask. And when you're asking, ask big. Yeah, this has worked for me and it has worked for a lot of people who follows this framework. So this is something which I can tell from a LinkedIn and job search perspective. The second part what I want to tell people is that people are very shy to come onto the camera. LinkedIn has a specific feature. When you install it in phone, you can record a video. Many people do not know about it. Just because that easy job apply button is that hundreds and thousands of people will click on apply job, and the HR team, the hiring team will get thousands of resume, which is very difficult to shortlist. You have to stand out there. Drop a nice email to the hiring manager. Send a voice note, send a video note to that hiring manager. You will fast track your process of getting interviewed very, very soon. I can testify there is somebody in the forum who's in my team who did exactly the same thing and got hired in just 2 weeks of time.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of those insights, Shahjad. Very, very helpful. We have actually overshot our time a little bit, so I really appreciate everybody, taking time out on Thursday evening. Just, I think we'll start to wrap things up. I just want to, share that Shahjad and Udit have some brilliant content being posted on LinkedIn. So do give them a follow. I will share my screen so you can uh, see their profiles, and there is a barcode. I hope if you put your cell phone in front of the screen, it might actually take you to their LinkedIn page, but otherwise please note down their names. Udit Goenka from Niyam and Shahjad Khan from Field Assist. Please follow them for more such insights that they have shared today. And it's just for your benefit. You will end up learning a lot more about networking and many other things that might be relevant to you. Apart from that, if there is anything that you're looking for support, especially personalized support in terms of achieving your next role or career goals, please do reach out to us at Pivot. You can check out our website at mypivot.work. It's shared on the bottom left of the screen right now. We help people from an end-to-end process perspective until they have landed their target role. So do check us out. And that's pretty much it. Apart from that, again, want to really take a moment to thank everybody for joining us today. And special thanks to Shahjad, you and Udit. It was a great conversation. So glad to have met you both during this conversation. Udit, you were in the car, but somehow you made it feel like you were as present and as, kind of informal, and really, really, great, valuable insights from you throughout this conversation. And Shahjad, you were brilliant as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you were brilliant as well. Thank you, everybody. I hope you all have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you everyone, and thank you Arjun and Manjari for inviting. It was pleasure speaking with you all. Anybody have anything? Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to help. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.